Hey guys, this is Stephanie and I am Stacks on Stacks on Stacks. Today I'm coming to you with my December wrap-up, a little late, but better late than never. And I read 6 books in the month of December, which is a little less than normal, but I forget how busy December gets. I forget that I have a million things going on and that I always get sick, and then I just lay on the couch and I watch cooking shows. Literally, the Great British Baking Show, all 4 seasons in like a week. And then I'm rewatching it because I'm trash for it. Why? I don't even know, but I love it. I adore that show so much. And I'm not going to get down on myself about not reading a lot this month either. I'm very pleased with what I read. I like most of the books I read too. They all got pretty high ratings, so that's good. The first book I completed this month was The Beekeepers Apprentice by Lori R. King. This was a really good book. It is kind of a Sherlock Holmes later in life type of thing, which I very much appreciate because I always liked Sherlock Holmes. When I was rereading them earlier this year, I was a little disappointed. They weren't quite as I remembered, but I think I'm going to be getting back into them. Basically, in this book, Sherlock Holmes is retired and he makes friends with a gal named Mary Riley, and she's a young gal and he kind of takes her under his arm. Mary is very smart and intuitive and observant and kind of like a young Sherlock Holmes herself. So Sherlock's like, yeah, I can deal with that. Though he's generally insufferable, but he's like that in the books too. So it keeps going along that vein. So he takes her under his arm and he's like, I'm going to show you how to be amazing like me. And he does. And she learns. And of course, anybody who, puts themselves with Sherlock Holmes is bound to get into trouble, like, life-threatening trouble. So of course that happens, but I really did like this book. I gave it a 4.0 personal. I did like it, and it is a series. This one was written in the 90s. So it is a series of 12 or 13 books. I do think I'll go on with the series. I don't think I'm gonna be in a super huge hurry. I just think it's something I'm gonna slowly read a few of each year because I did like the characters. The more I thought about it, the more I liked it. I gave it a 4.0 personally and 4.3 technically. It was very good writing. At times it was a little slow though, so I wasn't always engaged. The next book I read was My Lady Jane by Cynthia Hand, Brody Ashton, and Jody Meadows. This was a buddy read with Read a Book, whose channel I will link below. This was fantastic. It kind of had been talked about on BookTube, I think a few years ago. I think this one came out in 2016. I really liked this book. I thought it was very funny. I wasn't expecting that, and good humor. Some of them were dad jokes, which I don't think I appreciate dad jokes, but I still really did like this. Basically, this is a retelling of Lady Jane Grey, who was on the throne in England for 2 days before they killed her. And this is a historical fiction, heavy on the fiction, and basically it revisits that time if there was magic involved, if we lived in a magical world and that kind of thing. This is a definition of a fun read for me. I gave it 5 stars because it didn't take itself too seriously. It was out there to be fun, and that is what it was. It was fun. I was laughing so hard my stomach hurt, and I actually think I was laying in bed laughing while I was reading while my husband was sleeping, and he kind of woke up and he's like, are you okay? Is everything okay? And I then felt really bad, but I was like, yeah, this is hilarious. But I couldn't say that because we're sleeping. But I definitely enjoyed this book. It was good writing. It was great. I totally enjoyed it, and I will read this one again. The next book I read was Our Dark Duet by Victoria Schwab. This is the second book in the Monsters of Verity duology. So being the second book, I can't tell you too much about it, but in the first book, basically we live in a society that has monsters. So they're kind of there's 3 kinds of monsters. One is basically like a vampire. One's basically like a, smarter version of a vampire that can go out in the light. And then the last one is the judgment monster. They look more human than monster, but they have to try to look human at the same time. And they kill people that have done bad things, mostly murder. They kill murderers. So they're like the judgment monster, you could say. So in the first book, we have our 2 main characters. We have Kate, who is kind of a rebel girl, and her dad is a monster, almost literally, not quite. And she just wants to be like her dad, and she wants to be a monster, and she wants to be a terrible person. And then we have August, and August is a monster who wants to be human and look human. So Kate has to go to this new high school, and August is also new at this high school, and they meet and they both know there's something odd about the other one, but they're not quite sure what. And then the plot continues from there. I'm not going to go too much more into it because I don't want to give things away again. But the first book I loved, and the second book I didn't. I gave this about a 3.5 personally, about a 3.2 technically. And it was a disappointment because I gave the first book a 5.0 rating. I feel like it was kind of riding the coattails of the first book. I feel like the second book didn't need to happen. It didn't add anything to the universe. It didn't tie up loose ends. I felt like the loose ends that were left loose were actually okay. And maybe at the time, after I finished the first book, I wanted a second book, but it just wasn't good. It was okay. And it was disappointing. Now, I did listen to it, and I kind of listened to it in chunks. I didn't listen to it all the way through, and maybe I lost something there with that. But honestly, I just felt like it was a bit of a letdown. It was a second book in a series that wasn't well thought out. It wasn't well done. I know a lot of people love this, but I just found it disappointing. Now, I still gave it a 3.5. That's a pretty good rating for me, but I just didn't love it. And I think I wanted to love it, and I just didn't love it. Next book I read this month was The Well Ascension by Brandon Sanderson. Now, I gave this 5 stars personally and 5 stars technically. Basically, I loved this book. This is the second book in the Mistborn series. First one is The Final Empire. This book, I can't talk a lot about it because it is the second book in a series. Basically, it takes place in a world where people can consume metals, and then they have basically superpowers. So if I consume pewter, then I get really, really, really strong. Well, a Mistborn is somebody who can consume all of the metals, and they can have all of the superpowers. It's pretty great. I do love this series. I actually think the second book might have been better than the first book, and I never feel that way. Usually I feel like there's second book syndromes. The second book's just not as good. This time, the second book was actually better than the first book, so I'm very excited to get to the third book. This is a must read. If you like fantasy, if you like just fun worlds, this is the book for you. And I know they're thick. They take a while to read, but you know, longer book means longer enjoyment. The next book I read was Renegades by Marissa Meyer. Now, I wasn't 100% sure what to expect of this book. I ended up giving it a 4.0 and personally, and a 4.2 technically. This book basically is about a world, current world like we're in now, but there are superheroes and then there are supervillains. And the superheroes have beaten down the villains, so the villain group is like just a handful of villains with loser powers. And superheroes run the country. They make the rules, they make the laws, they are the law. This whole book is actually from one of the villain / anti-heroes' point of views. Basically, we're her point of view from the beginning of why these superheroes aren't like as big and amazing as they think they are, and how they're not so perfect, and how things aren't good this way. And it's an interesting perspective. Like, I didn't really know that that was what the perspective was. So I really like that as the perspective. And then we also have some of the story from one of the big superheroes' son. So you can see things from his point of view as well. I really liked this book. I thought it was really good writing. I thought it was really clever. I think that Marissa Meyer is quickly becoming one of my auto-buy or auto-read authors. I loved this book. It was really, really, really good. It's a book I probably would like to read again. Didn't know it was the first in the series. I should have known, but I didn't. And I really, really did like this book. Well written, well executed, well thought out, good character development, typical Marissa Myers. And the last one I read was Wires and Nerves, also by Marissa Myers. This one is a graphic novel that follows Aiko, who is from the Lunar Chronicles series. I loved this. I loved the pictures. I loved pretty much everything about it. I gave it a 5.0 personally and a 5.0 technically. We got pictures so we could kind of see what our characters are supposed to look like. I know how I imagined them in my head, but it was even better to have them right in front of me. I loved the story they came up for Aiko. It's kind of one of those in-betweens. It falls somewhere in the Stars Above book, somewhere in there. And I really do like it. It is part 1. So part 2 comes out this month in January. I will be getting it probably pretty quickly, probably from my library. I'm trying to not buy as many books, but I might have to buy it. I might have to buy it. If you are a fan of Marissa Myers or the Lunar Chronicles, this is a must. Read the graphic novel. You will love it. So those are the books that I read this month, all 6 of them. I will say all in all, it was a pretty good reading month. Out of 6 books, 3 of them were 5-star reads. That's pretty good. 2 of them were 4-star reads and 1 was a 3.5. Those are all really good ratings, especially for me. So I would say for December, I am pleased. Thank you guys so much for watching. I love that you watch my videos. Please feel free to like and please feel free to subscribe. I would love for you to know when I post another video. Also, feel free to leave a comment with the best book that you read in December. I would love to know what it was. I post videos on Tuesdays and Fridays, so you can find me here then, and I look forward to seeing you guys soon. Goodbye!